Next one comes from Sean Curran, and this was in response to a U20 Shaggy Dog story. JX3P, you can edit from the front panel video I did in December 2021. And Sean writes, hey, thanks for the video. The chronology of the 80's Roland digital synths has always fascinated me. The U series was a foundation line for Roland Synths, ushering in an era of PCM Ropplers. In the late 80s, ROM cards were all the rage and big dollars for sound manufacturers. I read a few articles back then that claimed the U series directly leveraged a massive collection of samples from the S series samplers. Knowing you have both the U and S series, have you noticed similarity in sounds between the two platforms? I suggest I'd be interested in your thoughts on sound by sound comparison. Maybe I'll do a video on that when I get my U20 keyboard back up and running, because it's a little bit dead at the moment. So Sean then writes, Roland sample PCM Chronology 1986 S10 MKS 100 1987 S50 S550 S220. Yeah. 1988 U110 and S330 1989. I thought the S50 was a year later, actually. I thought the S50 was 1988, but I could be wrong. 1989 U20, U220 and W30. Now the W30 is a keyboard I've never managed to buy. My friend had one and he loved his W30. Anyway, digress. 1990 S770 and D70. Yes, which wasn't really a D series synthesizer. It was really the next in the U line. And actually, if you look at the board on the D70, it says U50. The 1991 S750, which is the sampler of the S7 sampler I have. 1992, the SP700. Yes, well, I can't. The order is right. A couple of years I'm not quite sure on, but effectively got the order right, so no problem with that. This is how I kind of put it. If you look at the Roland tone and sample libraries, you'll notice that a number of tones and samples are the same against the different platforms. You should see that they have the same name. However, the complication, the collections are jumbled between the platforms, so it's not obvious. So what Roland did was effectively, for argument's sake, on the S series, they received the S series libraries, which was blocks of 5 discs with between 1 and 8 samples on each disc, pretty much. And the disc might say brass, okay, and you get a whole raft of different brass instruments. But then you go and look at the U series. The U series has a card called brass, but it doesn't necessarily have all the same tones. But then you look at the U series that says orchestra, and it might have some of those brass tones that were on the brass discs in the Roland S series library. If that makes it obvious. But listening to the tones that are generated from the sampler and the U series, what I would say is the tones do seem to come from the same source. Now, the difference is the way that the U series and the S series and a number of other instruments actually process the sound once it's generated, and that creates a subtle difference between the tonal qualities. But my money is, and somebody will correct me and somebody will say this, is that the Roland sound library was used for multiple machines or multiple instruments over multiple years, just repackaged in different ways. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment comes from What's Quantize in response to the JX10 seemed dated against the Korg and Yamaha of the day, a video I did in December 2021. And they write, I really enjoy your channel and would like to ask you something. I love the sound of the D series from Roland and would love to make my own sounds. However, I'm blind. What synth should I buy that is accessible? Would it let me program sounds similar to a D50? That's actually a very, very hard question, because synths don't lend themselves to be particularly, especially legacy synths, don't lend themselves to be particularly visually impaired friendly. In fact, they don't lend themselves to be disabled friendly at all. But it's a really good question, and it's something I don't think I am really qualified to answer. The problem with the synths from the late 80s, like the D50, is that the manufacturers minimised the design and put all the parameters into menu structures. So unless you can see the screen, it's difficult not a great situation for somebody who is visually impaired. I would have said that your best bet would be a VST on a computer where you can have visual aids enabled. So most computer programs nowadays support the I can't think what the framework is. Is it WSC something framework? Whereby if you have enabled the visual aids on the operating system, then it effectively can read the screen for you. And it can do other things as well to help people who are disabled. Alternative, a synth like maybe the Roland JD800, which has many of the parameter controls on the pad. So the issue is, you're more or less looking at the panel across the front here, and you've got most of the controls are actually on the panel in terms of sliders and knobs. So maybe that would be a better bet if you wanted to try and buy an old synth and then effectively tune it by ear, because obviously people who tend to be visually impaired tend to have a better ear. Hence the reason why a lot of piano tuners are blind. But that's kind of reality. I mean, I'm probably going to get people shout at me and say, no, piano tuners are not blind. I said, that's not what I said. I said a lot of piano tuners are blind because they have very, very sensitive ears. Because when you lose one sense, the other sense pump themselves up. Was what I've been told anyway. So maybe that would be a better option for you. Either way, it'd be interesting to know how you get on.